All right, so sort of middle lower pec thing going on here. Cable press, cable converging. I'm going to show you all how I set this up, much like I showed with the Smith machine. First thing I do is I take a guess, because all of this is ultimately going to have to be a guess to begin with. So if it's convenient, I'll angle the bench upright. Because I have these long handles, I don't really have to squirm to try to get back here, so I can afford to use like an upright position. The problem, however, arises when you have a cable sack like this and you only have the short handles. So if you only have the short handles, you either need to move this bench closer and then angle it flat and then put the cables all the way low, or you need to get an extender for those handles. There are a couple problems with this, which I may run into in terms of the bench shimmying back and forth. So that's another thing, is if you don't want to put a weight behind this, you can also just move it flat and move the cables down. So maybe just to show it, maybe I'll do one set with this upright and then one set where I move it lower and I use the same sort of relative angle. Now, when I say relative angle, I am talking about the angle that my arm is being loaded relative to the cable, right? Because if I want to load this direction, sort of slightly high to slightly low, then I want the cable to sort of move in line with me, right? I can do that in an upright position with cables here, or I can put the bench flat and move the cables down and sort of shimmy myself so that that same exact loading angle is actually mimicked, okay? So if none of that made sense, just remember, it's about the loading angle relative to your body, not just what the bench angle is. So kind of how I like to gauge this in terms of a guess. So I'll just say, okay, where did the handles get to? Looks vaguely right. And I'm noticing that I'm a little shifted here. So kind of center the bench. And then let's just see. Now, the proper way to get into any cable press, because this will be heavier, this is just a warm up, is grab with two arms, grab one cable, and then basically wrap it around yourself, right? When you wrap it around yourself, it'll just be sort of pushing your body into the bench, okay? And then reach back and grab the other cable with the single arm. So single arm is wrapped, other arm is grabbing the cable. And then use the weight of this cable that you're already holding to pull you into position, okay? It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. So this ended up being a pretty good guess, but this angle feels still just a little bit wide for me. So another helpful tip may be when you're sitting here, right, if you can kind of visualize where the cable origins are, pull yourself back into that position, which is, again, slightly high to slightly low. Again, have your aim, set your arm path relative to your aim, and then set the cable up relative to that, just like we did with the Smith machine. Don't just haphazardly get in there like I did, and then try to do it. So I noticed I was it felt like a little bit too wide for me. It felt like I was being pulled out too much and not enough backward. So I'm just gonna shift the bench maybe an inch forward, right? And then reassess, do the same thing. So I'm gonna do my first set now, just take a guess about the load. And with these, I'm gonna look to sort of briefly pause on the first couple reps and then just hammer out the rest of the range, whatever I have left, sort of in that lengthened position. Because you'll be able to get to a full lock for a couple reps, but if you keep trying to go there, when that short position is fatigued, you're gonna lose a lot of output in the stress position. So see how it goes. And again, grab one side of the cable, turn and rotate, grab the other, and then use that other side to pull you back to center. So I'm just gonna do the partials now. And when you're racking the cables, by the way, you just reverse action it, right? So I started with the right and then I looped over and grabbed the left. So I let go of the left first and then I let go of the right to get out. And as you saw, that range of motion just kind of naturally decreased as I went on. It wasn't like I really super intentionally was like, oh, I'm gonna use shortened range now. I just sensed, okay, I can't really get to that position without some kind of compensation. So I'm just gonna sort of let the range drop and then end up capping out the end of the stretch position there. And when I stop the set is basically when I can't move out of that bottom position. I'm not saying everyone should do that, but if you're fairly comfortable with your training technique and your ability to fatigue without losing that, then take it to the house. So I'm just gonna do one more of these and then move on to triceps. And grab one with 2 arms, loop around, set the other.